For 17 years of marriage and more than 2 decades together since high school, I thought my wife and I had built a life that could withstand anything. We were those people who had grown from awkward teenagers into adults side by side, raising 3 daughters, now 11, 13, and 15, and carrying the quiet pride of building a family rooted in years of memories, inside jokes, and milestones. I never suspected that behind that facade of stability, my wife was quietly dismantling everything we had, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but betrayal. It began with her sudden disappearance. One morning she packed a bag and left the house in tears, so shaken she could barely speak to our oldest daughter before walking out the door. Then silence. No calls, no texts, no explanations. When I reached her parents in desperation, they brushed me off with vague assurances that she was safe with them and urged me to be patient, as if waiting in limbo with 3 children who deserved answers was anything close to reasonable. For days we knew nothing, and the girls asked questions I could not answer. I told them their mother was with their grandparents, but the weight of that half-truth gnawed at me. The truth came crashing down only after I contacted the police for a wellness check. That's when the web of deceit unraveled. My wife had been having an affair, not for months, but for years, and the man she had tied her double life to had died of a sudden heart attack the very night she vanished. The grief and chaos at her parents' home made sense then, but so did the silence, because they had known all along and had been covering for her. In a single revelation, my world collapsed. At first, I thought it was a 2-year affair. That was devastating enough. But as the days passed, I pieced together evidence and admissions that pushed the timeline back further. It had been more than 4 years. 4 years of fabricated errands, traffic excuses, fabricated work trips, and manipulated schedules. Her sister had even played a role, introducing her to the man who became her affair partner, a senior figure at her company who fed her promises of excitement, gifts, and escape from the monotony of family life. The pandemic and lockdowns, which had chained so many families closer together, had given them cover to deepen their connection. What I thought were harmless routine explanations were in reality the scaffolding of betrayal. When she finally returned home after more than 3 weeks away, it was like watching a stranger walk into our kitchen. The tension was unbearable. I had set a single condition for her return: to sit across from me, look me in the eye, and tell me the truth about everything. Instead, she avoided it entirely. She stood silent, unable to meet my gaze, offering no answers, no confession, just the hollow presence of someone too cowardly to face what they had done. Our daughters, who had already pieced together fragments, overheard my confrontation. Our eldest, consumed with rage, stormed at her before retreating in tears. The house became divided between silence, anger, and grief. Her parents came to plead with me, urging forgiveness and reconciliation. They were ashamed, humiliated, and desperate to push her back into my home, as though my forgiveness could erase the weight of 4 years of betrayal. I told them I would consider it, but inside I already knew I wanted a divorce. I wanted the truth only for the sake of closure and for my daughters to see that I had given their mother every chance to be honest. Eventually, she tried to give me that truth. We sat for hours in the garage, away from the children, as she unfolded handwritten pages filled with her account of the affair. She described how the flirtation began with texts, escalated to pictures, then crossed into physical cheating before the pandemic, paused briefly from guilt, then reignited after restrictions eased. She admitted she had loved him, admitted she fantasized about running away from the responsibilities of motherhood and marriage, admitted she lied every time she said she was stuck in traffic or working late. She said family life had become boring, and she craved the thrill he gave her. Listening to her detail every fabricated excuse, weekend trips supposedly with the girls, errands that were cover for hotel stays, false stories about her parents needing help, was like death by 1,000 cuts. It was not one betrayal, but hundreds stacked together over years, each lie delivered with a straight face while I trusted her completely. She cried, begged, and repeated that she still loved me, that she never stopped loving me even while she loved him. She claimed the excitement had clouded her judgment, that she was weak, that she wanted to rebuild what she destroyed. But the tears felt rehearsed. The apologies sounded like someone mourning consequences rather than choices. I realized she wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was sorry she had been caught, sorry the man she betrayed me with was gone, sorry that the fantasy world she built collapsed under its own lies. Our daughters have seen too much already. The oldest won't speak to her at all. The younger two still try to maintain a fragile connection, but even they sense the fracture that cannot be repaired. I am left balancing their needs with my own grief, trying to hold the household together while staring at the ruins of a marriage I thought would last forever. The reality is simple and brutal. My wife cheated for over 4 years, not out of unhappiness, not out of neglect, not because we grew apart, but because she was bored. Bored enough to risk everything, bored enough to dismantle 23 years of life together, bored enough to abandon her husband and her daughters for the hollow thrill of someone else's promises. That is the truth I am left with, and that is why I am moving forward with divorce. Not for revenge, not for anger, but because you cannot rebuild trust on a foundation that never existed.